Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing a massive deep dive into all the concepts in the vast world of biology, specifically the brilliantly organized and honestly sometimes totally rule-breaking systems scientists use to classify life. Ready to make sense of the millions of living things around us? Let's jump right into nature's ultimate roster.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll hit Part 1, the name tag, Part 2, the sorting hat, Part 3, the Big Five, and finally, Part 4, the rule breaker.
So, starting us off, Section 1, the name tag. Imagine you're an explorer stepping onto an uncharted island, and you're just surrounded by thousands of bizarre creatures. How do we efficiently name millions of species without completely losing our minds? Back in the day, scientists literally used massive paragraph-long descriptive sentences in Latin just to name a single bug. If you found a new beetle, its official name might literally translate to something like the shiny black bug with 6 hairy legs that eats leaves. Yeah, it was an absolute memorization nightmare. But in the 18th century, Carl Linnaeus realized his field notes desperately needed a fast, standardized shortcut.
Enter his brilliant solution: binomial nomenclature. Think of it exactly like a human name tag. Just as you have a family name and a given name, every species on Earth gets a 2-part scientific name. You have a genus, noun, which is kind of like the broad family name, and a species adjective, which points to the specific individual within that family. Pretty simple, right?
Formalized way back in 1753, this system completely flipped biology on its head. Why? Well, because it created a universal language. It totally bypassed the headache of translation. Whether you're a scientist working in Tokyo, Brazil, or London, when you say Homo sapiens, everyone knows exactly who you're talking about.
Moving right along to Section 2, the sorting hat.
Now that we can accurately print out the name tags, we need to neatly organize all this life into a hierarchy. Think of this hierarchy like a massive funnel. We start at the very top with the broadest categories, domains and kingdoms. As we move down through phylum, class, order, and family, the categories get smaller, more specific, and way more exclusive, until we reach the very tip of the funnel, the genus and species. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that a species isn't just some arbitrary sticker we humans slapped on an animal. It is a real, tangible unit shaped by evolution. The golden rule: members of the same species can naturally reproduce to create fertile offspring. If they can't, like, how a horse and a donkey make a sterile mule, well, then they belong to different species.
All right, let's jump into Section 3, the Big Five.
To figure out which kingdom an organism belongs to, let's play a logical game of biological 20 questions, which was originally formulated by ecologist Robert Whittaker. Question number 1, and honestly, the ultimate dividing line in all of biology: does the organism's cell have a nucleus? Think of a nucleus as a secure biological vault that protects the cell's DNA. This single question separates the most ancient life forms from absolutely everything else.
If the answer is no, you are looking at the prokaryote kingdom. These are your bacteria and blue-green algae. Their DNA just floats freely in the cell's fluid. They are the true original inhabitants of Earth, dating back an astonishing 3.5 billion years. And they multiply incredibly fast through a process called fission, which is basically just splitting in half.
But what if the organism upgraded? If it does have that protective nucleus vault for its DNA, we enter the realm of eukaryotes. So our next question focuses on complexity. Is it single-celled or multicellular?
If it has a nucleus, but is still just a solitary, single cell, it lands in the protist kingdom. This is a wildly diverse group. Think of algae or those amoebas you might have looked at under a microscope in high school biology. They act as the vital evolutionary stepping stones to more complex life.
Now we reach a fork in the road that confuses people all the time, separating plants from fungi. If an organism is multicellular and has a rigid cell wall, we have to ask a crucial question: how exactly does it get its nutrients?
Plants are self-sustaining solar chemical factories. They're autotrophs, meaning they use photosynthesis to literally make their own food from sunlight, and they build their cell walls out of cellulose. Fungi, on the other hand, like mushrooms or mold, are nature's ultimate recyclers. They are heterotrophs. They can't make food at all. Instead, they use underground networks to secrete enzymes and absorb dead organic matter. And their cell walls, they're made of chitin, the exact same tough material you'd find in a crab shell. How wild is that? Finally, if our organism is multicellular, has a nucleus but has no rigid cell wall and has to literally eat other things to survive, well, congratulations, you've found the animal kingdom. That's right, this is the exact box where you and I belong.
Taking a step back, looking at this evolutionary tree summarizes our logical journey perfectly. You can actually trace how the simplest, most ancient cells at the very bottom slowly branched out, solved complex biological problems over billions of years, and blossomed into the incredible five-kingdom complexity of life we see around us today.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 4, the rule breaker.
Just when you think biology is perfectly neat, orderly, and fits perfectly into our little boxes, nature throws a massive, controversial curveball. Seriously, what happens when you find something that isn't a cell at all? Enter the virus. It is basically the biological zombie that completely shatters the neat little five-kingdom rules we just spent all this time building.
When you compare them to standard life, viruses are bizarre, like really bizarre. They are essentially just loose genetic material, DNA or RNA, wrapped up in a protein coat. They don't have cells, they don't have a metabolism, they can't grow or reproduce on their own. The only way they survive is by physically hijacking a living host cell and forcing it to churn out virus copies. Because of this, under traditional biological rules, viruses aren't technically even considered alive. To quote virus expert Luis P. Villarreal, viruses exist on the boundary of chemistry and life. And this perfectly captures the wondrous complexity of nature. We humans desperately try to build these neat little classification boxes to make sense of the world, but nature is always evolving, always pushing boundaries and challenging our very definitions of what it means to be alive. So I'll leave you with this thought. If the line between living and non-living is already this blurry, what undiscovered, bizarre rule breakers are still waiting out there in the dark, ready to rewrite the textbooks all over again? Thanks for hanging out with us for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.